Welcome back to another edition of the Educational AD Podcast. We couldn't do these without the incredible support of our sponsors, and we want to start by saying thank you to all of them. First, thanks to our diamond sponsor, Varsity Brands, including BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herff Jones. Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement. We also want to thank our platinum sponsors, including Ephesus Lighting, innovating a brighter future at every level. Gipper, sports graphics made incredibly simple. Booster Digital Displays, revolutionize your game day experience. Vital Signs, bring student achievements to life. Camp Mobile, where leaders communicate better. And Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is Bobbi Moran. Bobbi is the athletic director at the Kent Place School in Summit, New Jersey. She also has a tremendous background as a coach, as an administrator, and promoting sports. Bobbi, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Jake. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, well, we're glad to have you, and we're excited to hear what's going on in your part of the country. Well, as we talked about before we came on, it's certainly a busy time for athletic directors. For our guests, we are recording this on April 27th, so you're going to hear it in a fairly timely manner. But Bobbi, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to college, and maybe how your love of sports led to your current position.
Absolutely. Thanks. So I grew up in Farmington, Connecticut. I went to Farmington High School and played field hockey and gymnastics for Laureen McLaughlin, who became Coach McZ. And I will tell you that I had Coach McZ in middle school, and then she followed me up to high school. And as most of us who are in this profession can attest to, there's always been a person who is such, that role model for us. And McZ was that role model for me. She really sort of held my fanny to the fire in a lot of ways and made sure I followed whatever it was I was supposed to do. And I was actually a soccer player in high school. And my senior year, the coach said to me, "You should really try field hockey." And so senior year of high school, I tried field hockey and it worked out pretty well. And I went off and played 4 years of field hockey at Siena College in Loudonville, New York. And from that time, I started really hitting the weights, working out, doing a lot of stuff. Ended up, believe it or not, doing some bodybuilding competitions and started doing some athletic training in that space. And then afterwards became a certified athletic trainer and started coaching and was asked by the Loomis Chaffee School in Connecticut if I would come on board. So I was a field hockey coach at Loomis Chaffee, worked in the athletic department there for many, many years. And in 2016, took the job as the director of athletics here at Kent Place in Summit, New Jersey. So I'm glad to be here.
Wow. You left out a couple of components that I thought were really interesting from your resume. And again, I love the Siena College connection. I'll tell you later on, Siena is part of the answer to one of my favorite trivia questions. So I'll share that with you later. But talk a little bit about some of the boards and national programs that you've been on, because I think those have been so successful the last, let's say, 10 years or so in helping develop sports in different parts of the country.
Absolutely. So I served on the National Field Hockey Coaches Association and in the executive, as an executive. So I was the only high school coach in the country that served on that board and really helped to sort of elevate field hockey in that space. And also worked with USA Field Hockey as a coach, as a site director. I work on the with the Women's in College Sports Foundation on the circle lead there, and sort of, again, help all high school coaches, but interface between the high school and collegiate program in that space. So really, I see myself as someone who helps families, student athletes and families navigate that college process. I've been blessed, like you, Jake, to have, I have 4 children. I have 2 daughters who were Division I college athletes, a son who was with the football program at the University of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner, and then another son who was really, really involved in theater. And so it's been a really wonderful journey, both as an administrator, but also as a parent, to watch what kids and families have to navigate. And I really feel like part of what we can do as administrators is ease that process for families, help kids sort of like bring down that anxiety point, and understand that as coaches and administrators, college coaches need us and we need them. So there has to be this really beautiful, and can be this beautiful synergistic partnership that we can work on together. And that's really where I find my sweet spot a lot of times.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm actually blessed, I guess you'd say the word is, to be involved with a new NIAAA course on parenting. In fact, that's the name of the class, Partnering with Parents, as opposed to, maybe 10 or 15 years ago where you had to deal with parents. So yeah, absolutely. And the connection that you mentioned between the high school AD, the high school coaches, and the colleges, just so important to, sometimes you're coaching the kids and the coaches, but a lot of times you end up coaching the parents as well.
Absolutely.
You mentioned Coach McD, and I'm going to guess that she's probably going to be on your list of mentors. And in our profession, we always talk about the importance of leadership and mentoring. So who were some of those mentors that helped you along the way, whether it was a pat on the back or a kick in the butt? Whose
Right.
voice do you still hear in your head?
Well, it's Coach McZ, so I probably misspoke and you probably didn't hear it rightly. Yeah, Laureen.
Yeah.
No, Laureen Zakruski McLaughlin. So McZ, but also I was blessed also to work with a gentleman by the name of Bob Howe, who is the athletic director now at Deerfield Academy in Massachusetts. And Bob is someone also who definitely just, I think, finding people who are open and honest with you, and who are willing to help you along the way and say, hey, have you considered this opportunity? Or, hey, you had a misstep here, have been really, really helpful. I've also really been grateful to a lot of college coaches, Pam Stuper, who is at Yale, Meredith Civico, who's at Rutgers right now, have been really, really tremendous, kind of colleagues in this process with regard to college and college athletes. And I've got some great friends from the NIAAA. Specifically, I have a buddy, Ira Childress, who is just a great guy. I think has been interviewed by you guys, and Amanda Waters, who has been interviewed by you as well. Both Ira and Amanda have done a phenomenal job in creating a platform nationally for athletic directors to connect based upon our connection from the NIAAA, which to me has been absolutely just a wonderful, wonderful place to learn more and grow as an administrator.
Yeah, it's wild. We talk about unintended consequences, and we'll get to COVID later on, but that has certainly been one of those positive examples of an unintended consequence. The National AD Network that Amanda and Ira put together, this podcast that we're doing. A year ago, who knew what Zoom was? And now it's become, just that's how we operate. So very cool. You mentioned your background, competitively. You mentioned how you kind of got into athletic training and that led you into that AD position. Talk a little bit about that process of coming into a new school, and how did that all play out? Let's say those first 90 days, what were some of your goals? What were some of the things that maybe surprised you during that time when you first became that athletic director?
Yeah, I was grateful again. Bob Howe, having worked for him, was really such a great guy in terms of really showing He came in with a real tremendous background when I worked with him at Loomis, with facilities and facility management. And so that was always in the back of my head, like, are there mushrooms growing on the grass? Like, pay attention to that stuff. And I remember saying to him, I really don't care. And he's like, you're going to need to care. But I think when I came into Kent Place, having the opportunity to work with a variety of people, I see athletic administration as, and athletics in general, as the front porch of an institution. I believe it's where we welcome people in, and it's where we welcome people back. And if used properly, a really wonderful athletics program can incorporate admissions, communications, and advancement. And if we can work that trifecta, which I like to use, we have the opportunity to really grow programs exponentially, because there's such tremendous outreach. When we think about a student's first experience. So think back to what your experience was the very first time when you came as a freshman to your high school, right? Most of us played a fall sport. And in that fall sport, we went to preseason. Now, preseason starts way before we open or crack any book. So what I always say to parents and students, and to even my seniors and kids who I use as sort of athletic liaisons, this student's very first interaction with our school is going to happen. And their whole experience of who they are in our place as dragons happens well before they come into the classroom. So most of us, the day before preseason, probably didn't sleep very well, probably didn't eat a whole lot, may or may not have been sort of chippy with our parent on the ride into school about what it was going to be like, right? Exactly. So understanding that, and as coaches, understanding that's the student that's coming in, they're terrified of the run test. They're terrified, like, am I going to make a friend? And parents are thinking, oh God, please just let this go smoothly, right? So when we receive those kids, understanding all of those components, and I sometimes use it as like a backpack. We all carry our story in our backpack, and sometimes we have that neatly zipped up, and sometimes that backpack, we run out of the house and there's stuff flying out all over the place. So just understanding that as an athletic administrator, as we move into our spaces with our kids, is really what I wanted to dive off when I arrived at Kent Place.
Wow. I love the backpack analogy, and you're just so spot on with all of those points. Your first one being that athletics is kind of the front porch of the school. Outside of academics, no other program is going to touch as many kids and as many parents as that athletic program. So great stuff. Bobbi, you've been at Kent Place now for a while. And one of the things we kind of pride our podcast on is this idea of sharing best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot, but hopefully I'm going to give you a chance to brag a little bit. What are some of the things that you are particularly proud of about the athletic program at Kent Place? What's something that you look at and you go, wow, we do this better than anybody else?
You're really kind. Well, I would say it actually flows back to that backpack reality, and to that front porch reality. And that is that we look at every individual who comes through our doorway as a unique human being. And I emphasize this to my coaches all the time. I believe that every individual comes to this earth with a gift to share. So oftentimes as coaches and administrators, we look at those kids who are like the number 1, 2, 3, 4 on our roster, the kids that are scoring the goals or saving the goals or doing whatever it is that they're doing, right? It's easy to pay attention to those kids. But I think that at Kent Place, what we have done is really paid attention to maybe number 18, 19, 20 on the roster, because oftentimes those are the kids that actually get us up and over the hump. Those are the kids that create the esprit de corps. Those are the kids that can motivate teammates, and we've created a very holistic approach to our athletic reality and have put a tremendous emphasis on wellness and well-being. So we incorporate yoga and mindfulness and all kinds of stuff into what it is that we do in athletics, because we really want to look at the whole person. The mission of our athletic department is to grow strong, confident, self-assured young women through their experience in our sports program. And that I think is something that we're doing pretty darn well these days.
You know, you mentioned, or I guess maybe I mentioned, COVID earlier. So as we told our listeners, it's April. We're past that 1 year anniversary, if you will, but we're still seeing a wide variety of responses across the country. Here in Florida, we're getting ready to wrap up spring sports championships. In other states, they still have not been back.
Mhm.
So share with our listeners kind of how y'all responded to COVID, last year, and how it's going now, not just with return to sports, but return to play. What's going on in New Jersey?
Yeah, thank you. It's such a good question. It is something that's changing every day. So when the pandemic hit last year, I was fortunate enough to partner with my physical education department, and I sort of saw the writing on the wall. Again, thanks to the great work of the NIAA and the connections that I had made through the NIAA, we were having conversations early on about what's this going to look like? What's this going to mean? So we created actually fitness packs for every, we are a JPK, so junior pre-K all the way through grade 12. We created fitness packs for all of our kids, the JPK through grade 5, and then the grade 6 through 12. And every single kid in the school got, a yoga mat, weights, whatever it was, but depending on what their age and level was. But they all went home with these packs, so that there was equity. I'm sure you noticed that there are kids in those Zoom meetings who are shutting their cameras off because of whatever it is that's happening in their life. Aside from being remote, we started dealing with both remote and in-person realities this fall when we came back to school. So we use these D10s. Our IT department has been fabulous, and we use D10s in our classrooms so that we've got kids that are like on a screen, and then we've got kids that are out in spaces. So we're trying to do the both and in both places, but we know that all the kids have the same equipment and they're working from the same space. Again, we don't know what we don't know about people's realities and what they're going through, but it really is a time to be empathetic, to be understanding, to be caring and thoughtful. And it has opened up a tremendous opportunity for us as educators and administrators to think about things that we've never thought about before. So sports has moved on in New Jersey. We are playing, we're doing everything, and I'm grateful for that. I'm so glad our kids get to be out on the field, and I feel grateful for my colleagues that we've been able to provide things for our kids as well.
Wow. What sports do you all currently do in spring? In Florida, we have baseball, softball, we got track and field and tennis. For our school, we're looking to add girls lacrosse next year. We have boys lacrosse now, so girls will be brand new. So what do you all do in New Jersey in the spring?
Yeah, so we have golf. Girls golf is in the spring. We have lacrosse as well. So our girls lacrosse team is playing. We have softball, and we have track and field at Kent Place. So yeah, same kinds of things. I know in some places soccer happens in the spring, but for us, soccer is in the fall.
Yeah, we're able to have soccer during the winter, and that's winter in air quotes down here in Florida. Makes it kind of nice.
Yeah.
Another question we've been asking the athletic directors this past year revolves around this idea of social awareness and social justice. And, we all have different, demographics in our school, but my question has been this. What are some things that we can do as athletic directors? What are some things that we can do better with our kids, our coaches, our communities, with this idea of being socially aware? What are your thoughts?
I'm so glad. Again, I think it's incredibly important. I go back to that comment that I used, the DK. We don't know what we don't know. I work with some amazing human beings at Kent Place. Walida Justice, Michelle Stevenson, work with our students, equity place and diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. We are having a lot of conversations. A lot of us have been hit by the black and shades of Instagram posts and things. And it's required that we really think about what it is that we're doing in spaces and how we interact. I think a lot of it comes down to communication. open, transparent communication, being able to lean into discomfort, being able to have conversations where we really have to be empathetic and understand what our spaces and places of privilege are, whether those places are based on race or socioeconomic diversity. We really have to think about those things, and we have to be willing to know that there are places where we have absolutely no understanding of what another human being's reality is, and be respectful of that and say to another human being, like, tell me what it is that I don't know, and it's not always the responsibility of the person who is feeling in that space that they are somehow, and I think this is what we run into, is that we've put that sort of girdle back on people to say, well, tell me what I don't know. That's like, no, 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 no. You got to learn about what you don't know. And it's our responsibility as educators to think about, what is it that I don't know that I don't know, and ask ourselves those questions every day. And I think that's probably where my yoga mindset comes into being, is that I want to pause, I want to take a deep breath, I want to think for a moment. Help me to be open. Help me to be open about what it is that I don't know, where my spaces and places of discomfort are, and how can I learn from people who have a heck of a lot more experience than I do. So that's what I'm trying to do, and trying to create spaces where we can do that more often. And again, I work with people who are way smarter than I am, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, I mean, that's a sign of a great administrator. You surround yourself with good people. But I love the phrase, that we use that all the time. We don't know what we don't know, or that this young coach, or this young AD or young principal. But with regards to someone else's experience, you're absolutely right. We just don't know, and it sounds trite, but it's so true. You have to have those conversations, those hard conversations, and you have to listen. So great stuff. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go and lighten things up a little bit. I've also been asking our athletic directors, what's your favorite part of the job? What gets you excited about coming to school each day? And I joke, after about the first 70 episodes, it was almost always the same. Well, it's the kids. Well, of course it's the kids, okay? But acknowledging that we love our kids. What are some of the things that get you excited about coming to Kent Place?
Damn. Now I can't say kids.
You say kids.
No, I'll tell you, I love that I get to pop into different spaces. And so today, for example, I get to step in and coach middle school lacrosse, because my middle school lacrosse coaches are going to go coach upper school lacrosse, and they got a game today. So that's fun for me. Anytime I get to step into a space where kind of things feel a little bit uncomfortable, and I remember what it's like to learn. Anytime where I get to sit down with a group of kids and learn from them and listen to what their experience has been. I love that. I love admissions. I love popping in and talking to families about what it is that we do and what we can do. I love advancement. I love talking to people about, again, this front porch reality. How can you understand and help people to understand how athletics really pulls people in and pulls people back. I love the stories that are a part of who we are as a community. I don't have a lot of stories about what math was like for me at Farmington High School, but I can share a lot of stories about being on a team or being with a group of friends, at that big game. Same thing with college. So I think that everyone loves a story. And I think that those stories are threads that always connect us and will reconnect us and keep us connected to our alma maters. And I think that's important.
Oh, without a doubt. I've been doing this, well, I'll phrase it this way. My high school and college days are long before yours. But when we get together, like I did this summer, went back to Oregon, a bunch of high school and college buddies. What do we talk about? Hey, you remember that game? Hey, you remember that bus trip? And it's just those are the moments that we're trying to let parents know, hey, this is going to happen for your kids. They're going to be telling these stories. I'm going to go off script here a little bit because you mentioned something a while back and I forgot to follow up on it, but you just mentioned again. You talk about, and we're both at private schools, independent
Mhm,
schools. You talk about the advancement
mhm,
component. And one of the things that we've seen for several years at both public and private schools are the existence of fees, whether you want to call them athletic fees or
mhm,
participation fees, whatever label you put on it.
mhm,
It's pay to be a part of that team.
mhm.
Um, Not good, bad, right or wrong. It just
Right.
exists. But what do you all do at your school in regards to sports fees?
Mhm.
Because I'm assuming, your students are already, or the parents, they're already paying tuition.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good question and it's an interesting question. We take a look at what the cost is for certain things. I'm going to give an example. We skate at the Prudential Center, which is where the New Jersey Devils skate in here in Jersey, down in Newark. And you can imagine it's kind of expensive to skate at at the Devils rink. So we then take that reality and sort of like share that in a tiny way with our parents. um, it costs us a heck of a lot more to rent the rink and to pay for transportation and to get down there. But we offset that cost just a skosh, as my son would say, just a skosh with our families and say, and let them know from the outset, hey, it's going to cost X to play in this program. And we are very mindful. I work very closely with my admissions and financial aid department. So I will send them our roster in advance and say, these are the kids that are signed up to play hockey. If there's anyone on that list, I don't ever want a student athlete to have to come to me to say, hey, I can't afford this.
Exactly.
I want to front load that conversation. So gratefully, I work with my admissions department, and that conversation is front loaded by the admissions person who does financial aid. So they don't even feel like Bobby's involved in that conversation. They know that, hey, I want to play hockey. This is what the cost is. And we can help you with that because we want everyone to feel like they can be a part of this experience. So again, I work with amazing people that allow me to be able to do that stuff.
No, and we have a very similar platform here at my school as well.
Mhm.
We're not having to rent Dole Campbell Field for football or something like that. But I get where you're coming from. But what you can do in return, I'm sure you do this when you talk with your parents and your kids, is hey, this is the experience you're
Mhm.
getting. You get to skate and play at this arena.
Yep.
So they're getting something for that. And that's what we try to do with our sport fees is, uh, most of that fee goes towards, like team gear,
Mhm.
t-shirts and workout stuff and jerseys and things like that. So they're getting something for it and they can see it. It's tangible, but interesting question. I'm try to follow up with that.
Yeah.
Well, Bobbi, this has just flown by. I'm looking at my watch here. Gosh, I could stay on this chat for a long time, but I know you're busy. So we're going to go to our final segment. We like to call it the new athletic director's toolbox. You're certainly an experienced athletic director, but right now I'm going to task you with sending out a brand new AD
Mhm.
on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put three things
Mhm.
in their toolbox. What
Mhm.
three items are going to go in Bobbi Moran's athletic director toolbox?
Oh, wow. Um, I would say, um, geez, patience is probably first and foremost. Um, you know, and in patience, I'm going to use kind of, I have a little memo on my desk that says the position of peace is the position of power. So just really understanding that most of the time when a parent calls you, they just want to be heard. So just create that container for them to share whatever it is that they are concerned about. Um, I would say love, just love every opportunity, love every moment, love every kid that walks through your door. And remember, the passion that you have in terms of that experience and why you're here, know your why. And then I would finally say just find a moment every day for yourself because we give an awful lot in what it is that we do and how we do it. So it's important to refill your own container so that you have more to give.
I've been writing those down because again, they're all great. You're the first interview that we've done since I have gone back and compiled and categorized all of the AD tools that have been submitted. And on that list right now, I have the document. There's 475 different tools, or excuse me, responses.
Yeah.
Some of them are the same.
Yeah.
And I've been able to put those into 20 different categories. It might be an actual tool, like say a cell phone, or it might have been a concept like communicate.
Right.
And I can tell you that those three that you just suggested are all in some of the more frequent categories. So again, I don't know if that's good, bad, right, or wrong, but
Right.
they stick out for me. Okay. And again, the patience one and the listening, if I could have learned that in year one instead of well into my career, I think I would have enjoyed, much more than I do. So many times I had a parent come in, and you're right, they just want to be heard, and they're 30 seconds into their sharing. And I've already got 6 or 7 different solutions to their problem, which doesn't really exist except in my mind. And when I finally learned to just shut up and listen, things went so much better. Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure that never happened to you in your career.
No, I do. I realize that they want to be heard. They have kids and they feel like it's their mama bear or papa bear is turned on. Right. Yeah.
Well, now that you're part of the educational podcast family, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you?
That's great. Through email, I would say. And my email is moranr, so MORANR at Kent Place, that's KENTPLACE.org. And I'd love to chat with anybody.
All right. Well, I encourage you to do so. Again, if you don't know Bobbi's resume and background, because she was very, very humble in presenting that, she is, a key resource that you would add to your list of mentors and networking. So, Bobbi, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor, and I really, really appreciated chatting with you today, Jake.
Well, absolutely. Remember, the Zoom recordings of these interviews are also being uploaded to the FIAAA Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. And we appreciate you listening. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD.